He said I was his future, his forever. Then he vanished. I found out through Instagram that he was getting married to someone else, a billionaire wedding, lavish, grand, but I wasn't going to cry. No, I was going to ruin it, because he made me a promise, and I kept receipts. Before we dive in, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This isn't just a story, it's a warning. If you've ever been lied to, used, or ghosted, stay with me. This one's for all the women who loved deeply and were left to heal alone. This is not a story I ever thought I'd tell. Not out loud, not like this. But sometimes, silence feels heavier than truth. And when someone plays with your heart like it's disposable, telling the story becomes a kind of freedom. So here I am. I'm 28. I'm a black woman, and I've built a good life for myself. I work in design and marketing, creative stuff, branding, storytelling, visuals. I love what I do. I live in a small but cozy apartment downtown. I've got plants I actually keep alive, a little coffee machine I swear by, and friends who show up when I need them. I'm not perfect, but I've worked hard to become someone I'm proud of. I met him on a Tuesday. Isn't that wild? How something so ordinary can be the beginning of something that changes everything. I was grabbing coffee between meetings, running late as usual, and he held the door open for me. He didn't try too hard, just a smile, a compliment on my earrings, and a quick, "You have the kind of energy that makes people want to know more." Corny, but it landed. We started talking, exchanged numbers, and that was it. He was smooth but not flashy, the kind of guy who dressed well but didn't need labels to say he had money. He had this calm, focused energy, like nothing ever rattled him. And he actually listened, asked about my work, remembered details. It felt easy, it felt safe. We didn't rush. Late-night calls, slow weekend brunches, walks in the park. It built slowly, like something real. I wasn't into him for his status or his bank account. I was into him because he made me feel seen, heard, chosen. One night he looked at me and said, "You're the one. I've never felt like this before." And I believed him. The beginning was golden. You know that feeling when you're falling, but it doesn't feel scary. It feels like you're floating, safe, warm, wanted. That's what it was like with him. He made me laugh. He made me feel like I was the only woman in the room, even when we were surrounded by people. We had inside jokes, matching playlists, quiet mornings tangled in sheets with sunlight slipping through the curtains. I'd never had that before. Something that felt like home in someone else's arms. We traveled a little, nothing too extravagant. A weekend in the mountains, a surprise trip to a jazz festival. He always picked spots that felt intimate, thoughtful. He'd say things like, "I want to see the world with you," and every time I'm with you, I forget the rest of the noise. And I'll admit it, I started to picture a life. I could see us moving in together, sharing space, sharing bills, even building a family. We talked about that stuff. Not in a rushed fairy tale way, but in the kind of way that feels like planning, like real life. But then something started to shift. Slowly at first, he got busier. New ventures, more meetings, quick trips that just came up. I wanted to be understanding. I know how ambition works. I respected it. But the space between us started to stretch. Phone calls got shorter, texts got more delayed. I'd ask if everything was okay, and he'd smile and say I was overthinking, that he was just tired, that he loved me. Still, I felt it, that gut whisper, the one you try to ignore because you want to trust the person who told you they never felt this way before. But love? Real love doesn't come with excuses and late replies. I just didn't know yet how deep the lies would go. When he disappeared, it wasn't loud. It wasn't some dramatic goodbye or explosive fight. It was a slow fade, the kind that breaks your heart by inches. First, he stopped replying right away. Then it became days. One night I sent a long message just asking, "Are we okay?" He replied the next morning with, "Just handling some things. Don't worry." And then, nothing. I waited. For hours, then days. I kept telling myself there had to be a reason. Maybe something happened. Maybe he was going through something he didn't know how to talk about. I gave him space. I gave him grace. I gave him more patience than I've ever given anyone. But that space, it stayed quiet. My friends told me to let it go, to delete his number, block him, move on. But how do you just forget someone who told you they saw their future in your eyes? I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I'd check my phone every few minutes, hoping for just one message, one call. Nothing ever came. Then one evening, my best friend sat me down, looked me in the eye and said, "I know you don't want to, but you need to look." She pulled up his Instagram. And there it was, a photo. He was dressed in a crisp suit, standing on a balcony overlooking Lake Como, holding hands with a woman in a white dress. The caption read, "Forever starts now." I stared at the screen like it was a bad dream. Like if I blinked hard enough, it would vanish. But it didn't. It was real. The man who promised me a future had given it to someone else, without a word, no explanation, no goodbye, just gone. And the worst part? The date on that post. It lined up with the same week he told me he was handling something. That's when something inside me cracked. Not just heartbreak, not just betrayal. It was the rage that comes when someone makes you feel invisible, like you were never even real. That's the moment I stopped crying and started planning. Because I wasn't going to be a footnote in his fairy tale ending. Not without being heard. I didn't want revenge. Not at first. What I wanted was closure. A reason. A damn explanation. Something to help me make sense of how a man could look me in the eyes, tell me I was his forever, and then disappear into a wedding with someone else. But when you can't get answers, sometimes all you're left with is action. I found out where the wedding was through a tagged vendor post. Some luxury estate outside the city, the kind of place people rent when they want to impress the world. Big gardens, fountains, white roses everywhere, basically a scene out of a billionaire's fantasy. And him? He was the groom in the center of it all, smiling like he hadn't shattered me just months before. I could have screamed. I could have posted everything. Texts, photos, voice notes. But I didn't. I stayed quiet, patient. I reached out to my cousin who works in catering and asked a favor. Just one. Get me into that wedding, no questions asked. When the day came, I dressed in a soft champagne-colored dress, hair laid, makeup flawless. I wasn't going there to fight or make a scene. I wasn't even going to beg for answers. I just wanted him to see me, to remember I was real, that I existed, that he didn't get to rewrite the story without consequence. I waited until they were mid-ceremony. People were smiling, phones recording, the whole dream. Then I stepped forward, calm, composed, and I said, clear enough for everyone to hear, "Before you promise her forever, maybe tell her about the last woman you said that to." The silence that followed, it was louder than any scream. He looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. But I wasn't a ghost. I was the truth, and I was done being buried. I didn't stay to watch what happened after I spoke. I didn't need to. His face told me everything. The fear, the shame, the unraveling of a story he'd carefully crafted for everyone except me. I turned around and walked out with the same quiet strength I walked in with. No yelling, no tears. Just power in my presence and peace in my exit. I didn't hear from him right away. But days later, the call started. Unknown numbers, private messages, emails filled with half-hearted apologies, excuses, claims that it was complicated and not what it looked like. I didn't respond to any of them. I didn't need to hear another lie to confirm what I already knew. The wedding, it didn't go as planned. I heard whispers, saw the online buzz. even caught a video someone posted. My moment went viral. People had opinions. Some said I was brave, others said I was crazy. But I didn't do it for likes or headlines. I did it for closure, for the version of me that sat crying on the bathroom floor, wondering what she did wrong. I did it so I could look in the mirror and say, "You didn't let him erase you." Since then, I've been healing. Therapy, journaling, building myself back brick by brick. I started a side project that turned into my own design agency. I traveled solo for the first time. I stopped waiting for someone to choose me and started choosing myself. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: when someone breaks you with silence, speak your truth loudly, not for revenge, but for your own release. I wasn't the woman who ruined a wedding. I was the woman who interrupted a lie with the truth he tried to hide. And I don't regret a single word. Looking back, I don't regret loving him. I regret trusting someone who didn't even have the decency to tell me goodbye. But even in that regret, I found something real: my voice, my worth, my boundaries. I used to think closure came from the other person, from an apology, a reason. But closure is what you give yourself when you stop chasing the version of them that never really existed. What I did at that wedding wasn't about drama. It wasn't to win him back or to ruin someone else's big day. It was about reclaiming my story. Because for so long, I thought I had to be the quiet one, the bigger person, the one who lets things go and suffers silently. But silence never gave me peace. Truth did. I know some people will say I was petty, that I should have just moved on and let karma handle it. But sometimes, you are the karma. And there's nothing petty about standing up for your own reality. He promised me forever, and I gave him the opportunity to explain. He chose lies, I chose honesty, in front of everyone. To the woman listening to this, maybe crying quietly in her room, doubting herself because someone vanished and made her feel unworthy, this is for you. You are not crazy, you are not dramatic, you are not too much, you are enough, and your truth matters. If my story meant something to you, say it, share it. Let it be a reminder that your voice is power. You don't have to be quiet just to keep the peace, especially when you're the one hurting. Thank you for listening, for seeing me, for holding space for stories like mine. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I've got more to say, and I know you do too.